Welcome to SAM Conversation, an online program of South Asia Monitor. To discuss the latest situation about the occupation in our side of the line of actual control by Chinese People's Liberation Army, we have the pleasure of welcoming Lieutenant General Rajan Bakshi, a former Central Army commander and GOC of the 14 Corps, which covers, apart from a portion of the line of control, the line of actual control. It also has a major coverage of the line of actual control. And he is the only armored corps officer to have commanded a mountain formation like this, and it is during his presence that there were induction of tanks also. However, now let's take a look at, in the light of External Affairs Minister Mr. Jaishankar recently announcing that there are about 75% of disengagement problems which have been sorted out. And the differences have been narrowed down. This is the terminology used. The mutually agreed on 5 friction points, which include the Galwan, Pangong Tso, and Gogra hot springs. Now, the intrusions so far have been, in 2011, there were 180. In July 2012, China painted China on the rocks. PLA painted China on the rocks in Demchok. In 2013, Chummar, Chaglagam in Arunachal and Depsang were intruded upon. And the latest, on 6th and 7th of September, is in Anjo district of Arunachal Pradesh, 60 kilometers inside across the line of actual control. And also the latest is a heliport, not just a helipad, but a helicopter port, just about very close to the line of actual control. Apart from this, the heliport is in the Arunachal border, Ningchi, which is Tibet. Okay, China occupied Tibet, 20 kilometers from the line of actual control. And also, let's remember that there are 800 Jiaokang villages. Jiaokang means well off, well organized villages, which have come up over the last 5 years. I request you, Gen Bakshi, to throw some light on whatever has been announced and whatever else, what can we expect from now on?
All right, sir. To start with, to get your viewers on grid as far as the outline, the major issues of terrain are concerned, I would like to cover that very briefly. Since it's been a long haul for the Chinese to have been there and people know what is happening, but the terrain configuration may not be very clear. The terrain can be divided into major issues. First, the Depsang Bulge. It's at an altitude of 16,000 feet at an average height. It is interspersed with rocky outcrop, rivers, nalas, and It is conducive for the employment of mechanized forces in this area, this high altitude plateau. It's also known as Depsang Plains. We have two important areas in this sector. One is Daulat Beg Oldi, DBO. The threatening of DBO is vital for our defensive battle, the execution of our defensive battle. It also provides us a very suitable helipad, launch pad, in case we are interested, as and when, to launch offensive operations. That apart, the enemy can progress operations from DBO deeper into our territory, and also a possibility of moving from across the Karakoram range into the Nubra Valley, which is, the area where we have the Siachen Glacier. It can also progress operations toward Darbuk, where we now have a lovely road running from Darbuk to DBO. The second area is the area south of DBO and north of the Pangangso Lake. This area has nalas and rivers. Rivers of the kind of Galwan, Raki Nala, etc. However, these are confined spaces and employment of large forces is not possible. We come to the Pangangso area, the lake. On the north bank of Pangangso, we have those fingers, finger 1 to finger 8. 5 to 8 is with them, they are holding them, and 1 to 4 is with us. The road commences from finger 5 and goes towards Sirijap. Sirijap is a major hub. It is a nodal point for administration and for operational employment. Therefore, these fingers are vital to them. Sirijap can get threatened if they move or withdraw, which I don't think they should ever do. That apart, they have made 2 bridges on the Pangangso Lake, which connect the north and the south bank of the lake. And toward the south bank lies Moldo, their major garrison, as also in the area of Spangur and Spangur Gap. And this is the area we're talking about, is the Chishul area, which is vital because operations can be progressed from Chishul on towards Tangse and Darbuk and Chagla and get into the Leh Valley. That's an access available in that area. That's a vital area.
Thank you, Rajan. Could you please specify when these 2 bridges were made over the Pangong-so?
Sir, please say again.
Can you please tell us when these 2 bridges over the Pangong-so were constructed?
So these 2 bridges were constructed last year.
Last year.
Last year. It's been a long time. It's been a long time.
So we're talking about recent.
Yes. It is in the area where the lake is the narrowest. Therefore, you can connect the Spangur area with the area in the north, in the vicinity of Sirijap. That's where the bridges that come up.
I take it that these roads are can take they got the road classification of carrying armor also, light tanks at least.
That is true. That is true. It is to reinforce the area, which includes heavy equipment, including tanks and BMPs, and heavy loads of vehicles. They have a major garrison in Moldo, and Moldo is a very threatened place, which we did when we occupied Kailash range with our tanks.
Yes.
That is why we had, yes. And that is
they were very rattled. They were very rattled when we occupied Kailash range, and they were after us They were after us
Absolutely.
that we withdraw from there, and we
Absolutely.
we
Yes,
agreed.
absolutely.
We agreed.
Absolutely.
There is a very strong view amongst serving officers who cannot speak out, but of a lot of us veterans who've been studying this, that we should never have uh, withdrawn from Kailash range, because that would maintain for us a forever, a position to to bargain with them, as
Absolutely.
against always we being bargained against.
So you have
Um,
said it. That is absolutely correct. Uh, you see, that could have been a very major bargaining factor for Depsang and Demchok, because Galwan and Hot Springs, we knew they were not as strong in not withdrawing. So anything in Depsang and Demchok, this was a very, very good and a strong point for negotiation.
yes, yes.
Sir,
Anyway,
I will run out a bit through because you may run short of time. Well, the area south of Chushul it leads you from Dungti onwards to Demchok into the Indus Valley. Indus River enters India at Demchok. This area is also conducive for employment of mechanized forces. I will later on uh, introduce you to whatever I know on how the motorized division and the mechanized division, which they had brought into Depsang, and how they have reorganized them into combat arms division and regiments. I'll explain it as we go along. Uh, so I think we may run short of time. So therefore,
you can go over those briefly, because we finally have to come to the major question: will the PLA withdraw from whatever has been stated? That is these five friction points. Oh, that's all they've stated. Five friction points, which is already we've already named. Which include Galwan, Pangong Tso, and Gogras hot springs, uh, and narrow down the differences. Let's after you briefly go through this, we must dwell on
yes, sir.
on these aspects.
Sir, one thing is very clear. No nation would like to have its military withdrawn from areas that they have already occupied and the line that they hold. The Chinese are well aware of the fact that they were extremely lucky and fortunate to attain the 1959 claim line, which is their claim line. It is extremely sad that they could come there and we were not able to pick up movement which was over hundreds of kilometers. However, that is a lesson learned which we must carry forward from what happened in Kargil. The formations in this case for the Chinese to come to the eastern Ladakh, the formations come from around 1500 kilometers. And if they come in the garb of training in the close vicinity or even a distance, reasonable distance away from the LAC, the Indian side is that much more cautious. And warning bells are ringing all over, and we are something like formations on stand 2. And we have to have our surveillance, our strategic surveillance, operational level surveillance that should have given us as to what is happening, even if they had come in the garb of training. So that is that bit, sir. The no nation. That's one thing very clear. Now, Galwan, we finished with eyeball to eyeball contact, and that is why they went back with the basic premise during our peace talks that they can withdraw to an area where there is no skirmish, when the militaries of two nations are such in an environment of such hostility, anything can happen between the troops at any time. So they've gone back from there. Hot Springs is again not an area which is as vital. In fact, even Demchok is in the CNN area is not as vital as the large chunk of Depsang Plains and the Depsang Bulge, which comprises the major portion of what is the Ekshai Chin. Therefore, Depsang is never discussed in any meeting. Depsang is one which we have to be more interested in. Pangang So. Pangang So is an area where I don't feel that even if we have our best foot forward for negotiations, that they would like to withdraw. In fact, it is a good effort on our part to have got 1 to 4 fingers, 1 to 4, because we must also know that I'll just give you the number. It is the new highway. It is the new highway which has come up in this area, G695. Like we have G219 in further depth in the Ekshai Chain area. It is the closest at Redop, which is close to Demchok, that G219 is in eastern Ladakh. Now, G695 is one, but it is between G219 and closer to the line of the LSE. So that is the effort which this highway has already come. It's in being. So therefore, you can imagine the sidestepping of forces in eastern Ladakh, which is 826 kilometers of effective frontage of 14 corps. Therefore, induction, de-induction, resupply, logistics of all sorts, it has all been catered for. And combined with that, the forces which they have deployed, they have mixed the combat, the mechanized division and the motorized division into combined armed divisions, and further into regiments which have a mix of heavy, medium, and light equipment based on where the employability is more suitable. The mix of heavy, medium, and light is configured.
Just a moment, please. Could you please specify the heavy, medium, and light in the case of guns? Guns only. In the case of tanks, it's only light tanks. Am I right?
Yes. So they have heavy tanks and medium tanks in the form of T99A and T96 and T96. They also have in a medium category something called PLT. It's a wheeled vehicle with 100mm gun.
Okay.
Light tank. The light tank is the ZTQ-15. It is 33 tons, 105mm gun. All these tanks have the ERA. And the ICV that they have is CSK 181. It's a wheeled vehicle. So they have a mixture of wheels and tracks. But this is the kind of equipment which is available in this area. And therefore, we have medium tanks. Don't want to get into the realms of what we should have there, but certainly the requirement of light tanks exists.
Fair enough.
Right, sir?
Now, so if you could please wind this at your earliest, if you could just wind this up, please.
Okay, you want me to finish this off?
The deployment part that you're talking about.
So this deployment in CADs and CARs, which is the regimental level, they do rotation. So I suppose.
So what is CAD and CAR, please?
Combat Arms Division
Okay.
and Combat Arms Regiment. The regiment
Regiment.
in their
Okay,
case
okay.
is like our brigades.
Fine, fine, fine.
So these configuration of brigades is what is heavy, medium, light. Accordingly, the tasking and their locations are the deployments are done. They similarly, the mechanized forces, along with mix of all arms and services, which form part of the combat armed regiment. There is a separate one for the Depsang, a separate one for the area of Pangang So, separate for area south of Pangang So, which is the Razangla area till Dungti, and from Dungti to Demchok is a separate combat arms regiment. So that is the configuration all along till Chumar.
Thank
Beyond
you.
Demchok is Chumar.
Chumar, yes, Chumar.
So
Thank you
that's how.
very much, Gen Bakshi. No, we would love to, take on more, but we a little strapped for time. You have elaborated on a very large amount of deployment of a large area. We haven't yet talked about the Arunachal Pradesh. That's yet another large area where there's been a very heavy deployment. Now, what I want to ask and get your views on is that
So
in light of what the External Affairs Minister has said, do you think that the PLA is going to withdraw from the set points, that is, the three mentioned Galwan, Pangong So, and Gogra Hot Springs, and will they actually do it? And also, relax on the patrol points?
So, after having reached here in middle of 2020, starting April 2020,
Yes.
there has been a massive effort in creation of infrastructure all along. I
Yes.
want to tell you that prior to 2020, we had defenses on our side at Demchok, Phukche, Dungti, etc. We had pillboxes, we had communication trenches. The Chinese didn't have anything. They only had the border guards, which were in camps. They used to go for patrolling and get back to their camps. Obviously, when they have come here and they're not going to go back, never would they want to go back.
Yeah, yeah.
That is
Right.
why defenses are being constructed. Roads have been constructed, which are connecting G695 closer to the LAC, the verticals connecting 695, 219. There are forward locations, there are defenses, there are habitats come up, helidromes. The airfields in the supporting vicinities have been upgraded and fighter aircraft brought in there. Logistic nodes have come up. The strategic reserves of Western Theatre are also along 219, separate for Depsang, for for uh, Pangang So area and area south of it in the Indus Valley. So there are these reserves which are there at Redok, further up north for Depsang, and further southwards uh, for areas of Chumar and the like. So therefore, there is a lot of, they have actually entrenched themselves. So this had to be done. We had to accept it. They're not going to go back. Had they wanted to, that would have a very different scene. And
Yes.
I don't see them
We
withdrawing at all, sir.
had, I think, 21 core commander meetings on which not
Yeah, yeah.
an inch was agreed upon. Not
I
an
wonder.
inch of withdrawal was agreed upon.
I wonder. Well, if there was anything, it would have come in the media. I
Absolutely,
have no
absolutely. No,
direct
it
access
isn't.
to any
They were
serving officer. I don't do it.
no. That's fine. Anyway, thank you very much, Gen Bakshi, for this very a dose which is not yet not yet big enough. There's much more happening. But whatever that you
So
shared,
sir,
thank you very much.
Your overall aim of having the emphasis and focus on Eastern Ladakh, that is why we didn't want to get into the realms of South China Sea, Taiwan. And I must conclude by saying there is the way we used to have our dual task formations for North, the West, and the East. They have something like that. If Taiwan is quiet, they have reserves here at Shikane and areas of that kind, Shikane, where it is Taiwan based. If Taiwan's hot, then they move. So something on those lines is what he's already planned and executed on ground. I'm
Thank you.
also to say, sir, very sorry. Lots has been done since the time I was there. Lots. Fantastic work done by our country. And I only pray and hope that we don't repeat Kargil and we don't repeat April 2020 in terms of our strategic surveillance and intelligence. God bless our nation. Proud of our nation.
Thank you. Thank you, General Bakshi. And I think that you ended that very well, that we cannot afford another Kargil or another Galwan. Thank you very much. And
thank you, sir.
As far as
thank you very much.
This plans of withdrawal, I think let's believe it when it happens, if it does happen. Thank you. All the best.
Thank you, sir.